Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, Diploma in HIV and Family Education, DAFE. BFEE-104 Communication and Counselling in HIV. Block-1 Basics of Communication. Unit 3 Traditional and Modern Types and Process Media of Communication. 3.0 Objectives. This unit introduces the students to a basic understanding of the various methods and processes of traditional and modern means of communication. The traditional media and folk media are studied from the context of the rich and varied tradition of India. In the second section of the unit, we examine the development of communication from writing to the modern means of communication. After studying this unit, the student is expected to learn the following: traditional media of communication, factors that shape and influence the traditional media, folk media and its impact on the masses, some of the leading traditional communication media of India, modern communication media and their development, and comparative merits and demerits of various modern communication media. 3.1 Introduction. In this unit, we study the traditional and modern means of communication. Communication is a dynamic process that has shaped the growth and development of human history over centuries. It continues to evolve and develop into newer forms with the growth of scientific and technological changes. The last few decades have witnessed revolutionary changes in communication. As a result, today we have many new forms of media. Traditional media themselves keep changing and adapting themselves according to the changing needs of society and the requirements of those who use a particular medium to communicate values and worldviews. 3.2 Traditional means of communication. The term traditional means of communication refers to methods used in a specific culture for communication of ideas and dissemination of information. Sometimes, traditional media are closely linked with folk media, alternative media, or folklore. We shall examine some of the important characteristics of traditional means of communication. Prior to that, we need to understand the relationship between communication and culture. Communication and culture. There is a close link between communication and culture. According to some social anthropologists, classifications of cultural facts include speech, art, mythology, knowledge, religious practices, family, social systems, and government. As we can see, most of these groupings have a direct communication dimension. This relationship underlines the importance of communication in any given culture. Communication is necessary for the preservation, maintenance, and development of culture. One of the primary functions served by every cultural form is to convey meaning to the participants of the given culture. Anthropologists agree that without communication there can be no culture. A number of people cannot function as a group if they do not have certain common means of communication. A culture is, therefore, essentially a human communication system. 3.3 Folk media. Folk media means media of the people. The word folklore and folk media come from the German root word volks, pronounced folks, which means people. Though folklore has close link with folk media, the two are quite distinct from each other. The term folklore was coined by William Thomas in 1845. Folklore includes such formats as myths, legends, folktales, jokes, proverbs, riddles, chants, costumes, dances, dance dramas, songs, folk medicine, and writing on the walls. Folk media refer to various means of communications available to the rural and tribal people. It is variously termed traditional media, indigenous communication system, alternative media, group media, low-cost media, etc. We may mention the following as the chief characteristics of folk media. I. participation by all the people of a cultural group or area. 2. Inexpensive and need only material available locally. 3. They are based on the average skill of the group. Skill is acquired without much formal training. 4. As they are participatory, there is no qualitative or quantitative criterion for participation. They depend on people for dissemination, and so largely controlled by the people themselves. 6. They are non-commercial. As money is not involved, no copyright system is followed. 7. They are largely anonymous. 8. They are adapted and recreated to suit the particular occasion, audience. Folk media have tremendous influence on society. They are powerful vehicles for social change. Even in places where the modern media of communications have made remarkable inroads, the traditional folk media continue to remain valid as a powerful medium capable of influencing attitudes, in leading people to action and effect change. Traditional media can be more powerful to dispel superstitions and help instill scientific temper. The traditional media are popular with the masses and they enjoy great credibility. Hence, they have remarkable power of persuasion. There is a gross misunderstanding about the relation between mass media and folk media. Folk media constitutes an interpersonal structure, which is quite different from that of the mass media. Folk media belong to the masses while the mass media are owned and controlled by a few individuals. In folk media, the form and content, the theme and communicator and the audience form a cohesive unit. Folk media in India. There are, according to scholars, about 6,000 folk media and traditional art forms in India. They help to preserve and transmit the tradition and culture of our country. Besides providing entertainment, they impart moral instruction. The traditional media enjoy a good rapport with the audience. The audiences are homogeneous in terms of culture, language or dialect. Traditional media are low cost and use language or dialect that is easily understood by the people. Folk media have high degree of flexibility. They can be adapted to suit varying needs and occasion. All these characteristics make folk media effective as media of communication. Unlike the classical arts, folk forms were not dependent on royal patronage. Folk media did not originate in the Brahmanic or Vedic stream of Indian culture. Instead, they belonged to the primitive Indian culture and remained always as an alternative media, expressing the life of the common folks. Throughout the tumultuous political history of India, the folk art forms underwent remarkable changes. But their power as media of the people to preserve time, tested values, to stir up emotions and sentiments of a religious, social and political nature continued unabated. In fact, some of the leaders of the freedom struggle, like Tilak, Gandhi, used the traditional media with great effect to mobilize popular support for the cause of freedom. The folk or traditional media in India vary in form and content from place to place. However, these media have several common elements. One chief characteristic is that they are highly flexible. They combine song and dance, acting, body movements and gestures, puppetry, costume, etc. The means of communication and the behavior pattern will vary from culture to culture. We may divide traditional means of communication into three categories. I. Means used. 2. Persons involved. 3. Social structures. Under means used we may list the following methods: storytelling, songs, gestures, drama, mime, puppetry, drums for signaling, giving message, for talking, dance, rituals, cults, myth, The persons involved in communication have distinct roles in the communication process. They include opinion of leaders in different disciplines, speaker, storyteller narrator, crier announcer, headman leader, poet, minstrel bards. The social structure for traditional communication includes the place, context or environment that provide the appropriate setting for the community or group to communicate. These include the marketplace, streets and street corners, wells or bathing places, forums or assemblies, religious institutions, voluntary groups or cooperatives, ritual gatherings, marriage, funeral, planting, harvesting, celebration, festivities, fairs. The oral cultures have many ritual and symbolic forms of communication. Oral communication is a very powerful form used to transmit ideas and values among the tribal communities. An African researcher in traditional media calls them oral media. Under the banner of traditional media of communication, we can list several folk media. They usually have the following characteristics: simple in form with no technical equipment, free available without material cost, relates to public issues. Traditional and origin is not known. The difference between producers, performers, and users is little. Communicates directly to one or more of the senses. Participatory, dialogic and interactive. The participants and listeners are a group or unit. Traditional media used by various cultures serve the following functions: impart social community values, provide teaching and initiation, transmit traditional values, preserve religious bond, provide legal code, norms of conduct, transmit stories, parables, proverbs, mobilize people for common action, defense, agricultural activities, preserve social bond and cohesiveness. Folk art grew from below. It is a spontaneous expression of the people, shaped by themselves, participated by themselves, to suit their own needs. Some anthropologists distinguish folk art of the common people from the high culture of the aristocracy. Silbert Sells outlines the characteristics of folk culture as: folk art and popular art are easy to understand. They are romantic, patriotic, conventionally moral. They are held in deep affection by those who are suspicious of the great arts. Popular artists can be serious or trivial, they can be persons of genius or persons of talent. They can be universal or parochial. They have the power to communicate with everyone. Traditional folk media are transmitted by personal and simple contacts within the framework of communities. The people involved in the process are small. Since the personal, face-to-face element is essential to it. Among the traditional media of communication, we may include language, music and art. In India, some of the popular forms of traditional media or folk cultural communication media are storytelling, tamasha, katha, bhavai, jatra, kirtana, pahar, tarja, kavigan, nautanki, kathakta, burkatha, lazal, kavki, mushaira. Storytelling is probably the most universal among the various kinds of folk media. Many rural societies in India have a rich tradition of storytelling. The storyteller uses histrionic gestures and rhythmic language to tell the story. The audience responds with laughter and body movements. The narration of the story sometimes goes on late into the night. The storytellers use costumes, musical instruments. They often caricature the character they are describing. The stories are woven around familiar stories from the religious traditions or local fables. The people normally gather in the village squares or courtyards. Tamasha is a lively form of folk theatre in Maharashtra. It is some 400 years old and dates back to the time of the Peshwas. A jester named Songadia acts as a master of ceremonies. He makes witty remarks. Tamasha uses both male and female artists. Tamasha has been traditionally used as a medium of entertainment and communicating religious stories. Its contemporary use include creating social and political change through generating public opinion. The government uses this form today to popularize issues like family planning. Nautanki is a North Indian folk drama form performed in an open theatre. This folk form gets its name from Rani Nautanki, whose young lover disguised himself to get entry into her chamber. This form too has a narrator called Sutradhar. Musical instruments like the kettle drum, makkara, and dholak are used. The dialogues are sung to popular folk melodies. Jatra, literally meaning journey, is a popular folk theatre of Bengal and Odisha. The name of this form is derived probably from the habit of the performers who wander from place to place to perform. Most stories are related to Krishna and Radha. Jatra helped to popularize the bhakti cult among the masses. Later it was used to popularize the Shakti cult. During the freedom struggle, Jatra was used for popularizing the movement. The form consists of choral singing, jury, acting, and rhetorical flourishes. Bhavai is the leading folk theatre form in Gujarat. A jester or clown called Ranglo enters into dialogue with the Naik or Sutradhar. Their bantering, satire and gestures of Ranglo provide laughter to the audience. He connects the past with the present and pokes fun at the political and social evils of the day. Bhavai uses a mixture of dialogue, mime, fantasy, acrobatics, magic tricks, dance and song. Various classical and popular music forms make this folk art a lively medium. Kirtana, this folk art form is also called Harikat or Harikirtan. It is a kind of concentrated drama, a monodrama in which a gifted actor portrays a series of characters and moods. It is believed to have spread from Maharashtra to Karnataka and Tamil Nadu about 150 years ago. Associated with the Bhakti movement, it was used by Kabir and Tukaram to preach religious faith and to bring about social and political reform. A different form of Kirtana is used in Gujarat. Ballad forms. There are several distinct ballad forms in vogue in India to narrate stories. To name a few: Alha, Uttar Pradesh; Burr Katha, Andhra Pradesh; Jugni and Var, Punjab; Povada, Maharashtra; Villupattu, Tamil Nadu; Villadi Champattu, Kerala. Folk music is another powerful traditional media of the people. According to scholars, there are some 300 folk musical styles in India. The more popular among them are Baul and Bhatiyali, West Bengal; Doha and Garba, Gujarat; Chaiti and Kajari, Uttar Pradesh; Kolkalipattu, Kerala; Bihu, Assam; Mand and Panihari, Rajasthan; Roof and Chakri, Kashmir; Sua and Dadriya, Madhya Pradesh; Mando and Bhalo, Goa; Boli, Eastern Punjab; and Layani, Maharashtra. Folk sayings and riddles. The rural folks of India appreciate these forms of communication regardless of their economic condition or educational status. These forms are rooted in the culture and tradition of the community that uses it. These media entertain as well as educate and preserve social cohesion and harmony. They transmit religious and social values and cement a strong bond among the members of the community. Puppetry. Puppetry is essentially a folk art used since several centuries to relate myth and legend. The medium has undergone change and is being used in many present-day situations to impart education, entertainment and even therapy. Puppetry is the art of animating figures representing human or animal motifs. Puppetry did not originate as a source of entertainment, but as a cult observance. It has continued as an enduring art, though it has undergone changes in the preparation and presentation. There are 4 different kinds of puppetry common in India. They are I. Sutradharika, puppets manipulated with long strings. The costumes vary according to the local culture. This kind of puppetry is common in the states of Rajasthan, Orissa, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. 2. Rod puppets. These are dressed in the jatra style. They are larger in size and are fixed on bamboo sticks tied to the puppeteer's waist. This form is common in West Bengal. 3. Shadow puppets. They are flat figures made from tanned hide and painted with vegetable dyes. They are illuminated from behind so that their shadow may fall on a transparent cotton screen. This form is common in Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala and Orissa. 4. Hand puppets, also called glove puppets, use the hand of the puppeteer for movement and vitality. This form is popular in Orissa, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. 3.4 History of communication. Communication skills were in existence probably from the very dawn of human civilization, as it would be impossible to think of life without some form of exchange of ideas and experiences. The earliest form of communication may have been the voice, used to communicate, to shout, to pass on information and experience across considerable distance. Much of the information at that time was transmitted through use of oral skills. Stories and songs were passed on to successive generations orally. Writing may have begun to evolve when oral communication became insufficient for political governance and control of large numbers of people spread at distant vast geographical areas. Early developments. The earliest record of written communication that we have dates back to the cave paintings in Lascaux and Altamira in southern Europe. It is believed that some 35,000 years ago unknown artists painted dramatic murals of bison, reindeer, wild horses and even extinct animals and the men who hunted them. The paintings depict activities related to hunting. Such symbolic depictions probably helped to recall more effectively the stories they wanted to remember and to hand down to the successive generations. Such symbolic representations aided memory and helped easy recall. In the course of time, these symbolic representations came to be standardized. Many such representations on surfaces, pottery, baskets, sticks, cloth, walls, animal skins, bark, stone and even leaves, have come down to us. These contain a rich variety of signs and symbols with drawings and decorative motifs. The primitive people used a variety of means such as tattoos, scars, jewelry, crowns, clothing, to signify rank, status, power, martial status, achievement, occupation and family membership. Writing. The transition from oral to literature culture must have taken a long period of time. According to some anthropologists, our ancestors began to use rudiments of language to communicate some 300,000 years ago. But it was only in about 4000 BC that some sort of uniformity in representation of ideas came into vogue. Ideas came to be expressed through graphic symbols. Since pictures were used to express thoughts, such pictures are called pictographic writing. Since objects drawn refer to ideas, such characters are also called ideograms, and the writing ideographic. The earliest ideographic systems known to us belong to Egyptian, Chinese, the Mayas. One of the difficulties with ideographic writings was the need to know hundreds or thousands of ideograms representing various words. A simpler system was thus developed to link the graphic symbol not to ideas but to sounds. Thus came into vogue phonograms. Phonograms are graphic symbols linked to specific sounds by convention or rule among those who speak a particular language. The alphabets are examples of phonograms. Our phonetic system of writing is believed to have originated in the ancient Sumerian cuneiform writings. The Sumerians hit upon the idea of letting a particular character stand for a sound. The idea was further improved and simplified in the course of time. Further activity in the development of writing can be traced to Egyptian and Greek civilizations. The common media used for writing were stones, papyrus, a reed that grew on the banks of Nile. Papyrus was an advanced medium for writing as it could be flattened, stitched together and rolled into scrolls. Another popular material for writing was the parchment, tanned sheepskin, and vellum, prepared from the skin of a young calf. The latter two survived longer than papyrus. The Romans refined the art of writing by improving the alphabets and introducing more durable materials for writing. The majuscule letters, used extensively in Roman monuments, are the capital letters. Their smaller minuscule letter forms, refined under the influence of Charles Magne in the 8th century as Carolingian scripts, became the lower case of the present day. The alphabets used in English are derived from these and thus called the Roman script. When Rome came under a series of invasions, the monks in the monasteries preserved the language and texts by strenuously copying them by hand. Thus we have the word manuscript, meaning that which is written by hand, or manuscripti. The monasteries became privileged places where libraries developed and manuscripts and books were preserved. Printing. The invention of printing was preceded by the manufacturing of paper. Paper is believed to have been first invented by Chinese minister Zai Lum in 105 BC. The Arabs had paper in 751, but it was brought to Europe via Spain through the Moors in around 1100. The use of paper became so widespread that within a century, paper was being produced in many parts of Europe. Printing was first invented in China in 846 BC. The Chinese used wooden plates for printing. A method of printing for decoration and ornaments existed in India already in 200 BC. But it was Johannes Gutenberg, a German goldsmith in Mange, who first invented modern printing using movable types around 1450. The first book printed by him was a portion of the Bible. This book came to be called the Gutenberg Bible. By the end of 1400, as printing spread to various parts of the world, William Caxton, who learned printing in Germany, set up the first printing press in England in 1476. The first printing press in the Americas was set up in Mexico City in 1539 by Juan Pablo. The first printing press in India was set up at Goa in 1556 by Portuguese Jesuits. The earliest printing presses were set up by Christian missionaries. Printing spread throughout India during the 250 years that followed the introduction of the first press in Goa. Besides the Portuguese, the British, Spanish and Danish helped disseminate the technology of printing. The advent of printing in India helped the growth of several Indian languages. Languages came to be written with their respective scripts. Grammars and vocabularies developed. Many of the earliest printed books were translations. Gutenberg's invention brought about a veritable change in the world. As printing spread throughout the world, languages grew and developed, schools and educational activities received a major thrust. Development in science, philosophy, and religion became available to the masses. In short, printing helped preservation and dissemination of knowledge. The development and acceleration of the printing techniques, availability of paper, and a growing readership helped the growth of the press, books, and newspapers. Today it is impossible to think of life without books. Printing of books and their spread gave an impetus to the growth and preservation of knowledge. Printing of books facilitated the spread of ideas, helped to break down social barriers. It paved the way to create new social relationships and helped to unleash revolutions. Promoted scientific developments and discoveries. Today, though many of the functions of books are being carried out through other media, book production continues to flourish as an industry. The book is unlikely to disappear from the world as long as human civilization exists. The newspaper was the oldest mass medium. It was the first and the fastest form of communication to reach a mass audience. The first newspaper was printed in Germany in 1609. Within a decade, newspapers began to appear from Belgium, the Netherlands, and Great Britain. Newspapers continued to remain the fastest mass medium until radio and television appeared on the scene. In terms of speed, radio and television have overtaken the newspapers, but the newspapers continue to serve readers with more in-depth analysis of news and features. The first newspaper in India was started by James Augustus Hickey in 1780. It was called the Bengal Gazette. Hickey was arrested and imprisoned and later deported back to England for fearlessly championing the freedom of the press and exposing the corrupt practices of the colonizers. Within 6 years after Hickey's paper was shut down, several other papers made their appearance from Madras, Madras Courier, and Bombay, the Bombay Herald. The pioneers of Indian language journalism were the missionaries in Serampore. Samachar Darpan was the first Indian language periodical. Since then, both the English language and vernacular press have grown steadily. The press in India played an important role in the freedom struggle. Some of the leaders of the freedom movement like Tilak, Gandhi, etc., were also editors and writers. The press in India has enjoyed considerable freedom, except for brief period during the internal emergency, and has been a powerful instrument in shaping the democratic polity of the country. Cinema. The history of cinema, or motion picture, as we know today, is little over a century old. Motion picture is a series of still pictures projected on screen rapidly to create an impression of movement in the viewer. In fact, the word cinema comes from the Greek word kinema, which means movement. There are 3 phases in the development of cinema. I. Recording of images. 2. Arrival of sound. 3. Addition of color. Several developments preceded the invention of cinema as we know today. First, attempts including the invention of photography date back into the middle of the 19th century. George Eastman in 1884 as well as Edison and Dixon were some of the pioneers whose work helped the invention of cinema. It was the Lumiere brothers in Lyon, France, who produced the first film in 1895. The Lumiere brothers used 35 mm film material. The films were silent and were accompanied by musical instruments or oral communications by individual houses. Movies became talkies with the invention of movies with the synchronized sound. Films had soundtracks by the 1920s. Many of the early films lasted only a minute or two. Later films of longer duration and with themes and stories that interest people were produced, and films moved out from coffee houses and saloons to full-fledged theaters. Film industry began to thrive and become a big business. Cinema came to India in 1896 with an exhibition of the Lumiere brothers in Bombay. H.S. Bhatwadekar, who watched the exhibition, produced the first Indian newsreel, Return of Wrangler Paranjpe. Dada Saheb Phalke, a Bombay printer, produced his first film Raja Harishchandra in 1913. Phalke went on to produce some 100 other films. Cinema as a medium of mass communication enjoys great appeal in India. India is among one of the biggest film-producing countries in the world. Films have been primarily an entertainment medium in India, but has taken on the role of providing to the masses education and social change. The documentaries also provide information on various national issues. Film is a powerful medium by virtue of its ability to combine elements like sight, sound, motion, drama. It can create impact and effect change. The film medium in India cut across cultural barriers as visuals have universal appeal. Broadcasting and radio. Broadcasting refers to the way of transmission of sound and image over larger distances. The telegraph and telephone were important inventions that facilitated later developments in communication technology. Samuel Morse, who invented the telegraph, transmitted coded message using electricity in 1835. A German scientist, Heinrich Hertz, demonstrated the existence of radio waves in 1897. Guglielmo Marconi, at the age of 22, sent the first wireless message over great distances. Radio was born. It became possible to send messages across large distances. Within 2 decades, radio passed out of the experimental stage to emerge as a popular medium of mass communication. Radio became a powerful medium of entertainment and information. It helped to disseminate ideas, played an important role during the wars, and enabled colonial powers to keep in contact with the ships in the sea. Political leaders used radio for broadcast to the nations. Television. Soon after World War II, radio was surpassed by another, more powerful medium: the television. Experiments in television broadcasting began in the early 1920s. A series of inventions including the picture tube, the electric camera and the TV home receivers followed the next decade. NBC and BBC set up their own television stations in New York and London respectively. The World War II adversely affected the growth of television. By the 60s, color television came into vogue. Since 1962, with the launching of the first communication satellite, Early Bird, the era of satellite communication began. Satellites have made it possible to uplink signals from the ground station to the satellite in space and to downlink signals on the Earth again. Uplinking is a process by which signals from ground stations are beamed to geostationary communications satellites. By downlinking, these signals can be captured by the home television through cables or dish antennae. The limitations of broadcast television gave rise to the invention of cable television. Cable TV was a process of distributing the programs received from the station by wire rather than through air. It is a system through which a master or dish antenna receives electronic signals and distributes them to several homes via cable. Satellite communication has today transformed the world into a global village. Today we have numerous national and regional channels with a wide variety of programs. Direct to home, DTH, television, multimedia and home theaters, DVD and VCD etc. have brought about revolutionary changes in the way people use media. Television in India began in 1959. However, Production of TV sets began in India only in the 70s. In 1976, radio and television, which operated under one unit, was bifurcated and Doordarshan was formed. In 1967, television was used in India as a mass medium for education through the satellite instructional television experiment site program. Television in India has served as a catalyst for change, for promotion of national integration, to stimulate scientific temper among the people, promotion of population control and family welfare, to stimulate agriculture, rural development, environment, promotion of sports and games, promote welfare of the cause of women and children, to inculcate a spirit of nationalism and appreciation for the artistic and cultural heritage of the country. Uncontrolled use of television poses many dangers as well. Most television programs in developing countries are imported from the West, especially the United States of America. In the 1970s, an estimated 150,000 hours of television programs was exported annually from the US. According to a 1983 study of 69 countries, it was found that they imported one-third or more of their programs from other countries. In Africa, about 40 to 60% of the TV programs are imported. This tendency is wrought with serious consequence on culture, worldview and value system. TV has been the major agent for globalization of culture to the detriment of promoting indigenous cultures. Television is also an addictive medium that can become the opiate of the people. Educators maintain that television viewing has interfered with the education process. TV has affected many other social activities, such as leisure and recreation, games, music, entertainment, religion, etc. The correlation between television programs portraying violence and real violence in society is being studied by social scientists and communication experts. Internet, with the aid of telephone and modem to computers situated at a distance, can be linked and data can be transferred quickly. Such data transfer system is called electronic mail, email, and is the basis for Internet. Internet is a global system by which one computer can be connected to another computer for data transfer. The system has been perfected to achieve world connectivity through linking computers via modem. This has facilitated quick transfer of information from one computer terminal to another at a distance. Further advance in the field led to the creation of websites. The website is a collection of data, text, pictures, sound, etc. that can be accessed through the Internet. Today, large quantities of information and data are available on various websites. With a few strokes on the computer keyboard, one can easily access them. Internet access in India was first introduced in 1995 by Videsh Sanchar Nigam Limited, VSNL. Broadband connectivity, mushrooming of cyber cafes, etc. are making Internet a very popular medium of communication. Further advances in the field of communications. Among the several media of communication, the one which had far-reaching impact on the present-day communication revolution is the telephone. Telephone, which was only been a medium for the transmission of sound from across distance, has now emerged as a major instrument of communication that connects computers or fax machines. Another major revolution, which is taking place in the field of communication, is with the help of cellular phones. Many advanced research and experiments are currently on to develop sophisticated cellular phones which will improve the communication process. The advent of digital technology, scanning and digital transmission of pictures have radically changed even the newspaper industry, as the information technology is resulting in new ways to speed up the process. of communication, we are also becoming more conscious of the interrelatedness of various forms of media. For instance, now it is difficult to speak of the distinction between print and electronic media as to separate entities, as printing itself is very much depend on many of the electronic inventions. Telephone, television, satellites and computers and other technological inventions have been perfected in a new relationship to provide us the information superhighway, which has revolutionized communication. 3.5 Choice of medium. The various communication media, traditional as well as modern, have distinct features, advantages and disadvantages. Their effectiveness depends on several factors. Their comparative merits and demerits tell us of their complementary. The choice of a particular medium for communicating a particular message for specific audience should be done carefully and after taking into consideration factors like the message, availability of the medium, and the characteristics of the audience or the receivers. Participation and feedback are essential to make communication effective. In communicating certain messages, ideas, social themes, one should not arbitrarily choose any medium at random. The choice of the medium must be done carefully and in consonance with the purpose, goals and objectives, the characteristics of the audience, their background, literacy level, economic or social status, age, education, familiarity with the medium, etc. The following list presents some of the possible advantages and disadvantages of various media. As we have already dealt with the traditional media at length, we have not included them in this section. Medium advantages. Print media, inexpensive material, paper, ink. Simple and rapid production process. One person can complete quickly. Many ways to approach the subject. A wide range of illustrative possibilities. Controlled distribution. Long life for always. Available for reference. Magazines, select, targeted, frequently affluent audience. Imaginative use of color and visuals. Prestigious, slick, more likely to be preserved. Passed along from one to another, so more people read. Newspapers, geographically focused. Relatively low cost and reach all income groups. Short deadline, more current, dailies, weeklies. Contents are discussed and shared. Enjoy credibility and mass appeal. Pamphlets and brochures can be directed to selected audience. Messages can be communicated in detail. Available for future reference. Many possible formats and colors. Attractive presentation and careful distribution. Direct mail, highly selective of audience. Messages can be personalized. Easy to provide means for reader action. No direct competition with other advertisers. Medium disadvantages. Print, static, linear. Can be familiar medium with negative associations, impersonal format, hard to enliven. Difficult and expensive to distribute. May be discarded after use. Magazines. Deadlines may be far in advance and so not timely. Market may not be local. Distribution costs and difficulties. Newspapers, short message life. High cost for timely coverage. Message often sensationalized. Pamphlets and brochures, production deadlines are long and printing late. Printing and production are expensive. Difficult to measure effectiveness. Direct mail, unpopular as junk mails abound. Difficult to maintain latest mailing list. Expensive and time consuming. Postage is expensive. Difficult to measure results. Medium advantages. Broadcast, high quality production. TV, always large audience. Enjoys credibility and is impressive. Has rich visual potential. Has intimate access to people, their homes. Creative, artistic and has communication potential. Videotape, easy to learn and use. Novel, exciting medium. Inexpensive compared to broadcast. Production involves people in groups or teams. Equipment is portable. Tape is reusable, inexpensive. Allows instant playback. Radio, inexpensive. Possible to have creative use of music and effects. Low cost, accessible, portable. More popularly used as a rural medium than TV. Can be used by groups and individuals. Selectivity of audience possible. Easy to adapt, edit, alter, copy, update. Has great creative access to imagination. Film, large audience potential. Powerful creative art form. Playback equipment relatively inexpensive and available. Involves many people in production process. Has both audio and visual advantages. Slide audio tape, inexpensive to produce. Can be used with large or small group. Can be easily revised, edited, adapted. Equipment available easily. Familiar medium, anyone can use anywhere. Involves many people. Communicates to a specific audience. Effective to entertain and convey ideas. Messages can be used with commentary. Narration and adaptable. Effective for use in classroom, lectures, rural settings. Medium disadvantages. Broadcast, indiscriminate audience. Excessive time consumption and expensive. TV, purchasing airtime is expensive, difficult to get. Access. Public service facilities declining, more. Commercialized future referral to the messages. Difficult messages limited by short segments. Commercial interruptions and context effect. Program. Videotape, still somewhat expensive. Playback limited to smaller groups. Broadcast quality calls for further investment. Lack of compatible hardware, format. Equipment. Electronic technology unavailable to many in rural areas. Radio, needs quiet surroundings. Lacks visual message. Hard to reach all due to irregular listening. Habits radio is listened as background so may be listened only marginally, without due attention message limited by short segments. Difficult to refer back to the message. Audience is too vague, broad and unspecified. Film. Expensive to produce and duplicate. Long time for the production process. Formal, final quality with less involvement of feedback. Hard to edit or change. Short life, fragile format. Audience unspecified and broad. 3.6 Summary. In this unit we have studied the various traditional media of communication and their impact on society, especially on the rural masses in the context of India. As we have seen, there are innumerable folk media which are used in the various states of the country to convey meanings, to tell stories, to disseminate information related to social conduct, religious values and cultural traditions. We have also studied the way communication has evolved over the centuries to the present day. We live in a media world or global village where information is available at our fingertips, thanks to the advancement in technology. When we see the tremendous progress that science and technology have facilitated in the field of communication in the course of a century, it is difficult to predict the future in terms of what is in store for us in this field in the years to come. What has remained unchanged, however, is the innate human need for communication. This need has helped in evolving newer media of communication. The process is bound to go on as the history of humankind progresses. We have examined the comparative advantages and disadvantages of various modern means of communication. There is no one perfect medium for effective communication which combines all the positive elements of communication. What we need to bear in mind is the complementarity of the various media, traditional as well as modern. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with the next chapter.